Now, I'd like to jump to this Walmart thing, because this is going to happen to everybody out there who's going to buy their food. It's already been in processed food since the 90s. It's the genetically modified corn that they tell you is great for you, except when they do the studies with the rats. Well, it's
one GM crop after another that causes organ failure, that's been found to cause sterility, that's been found to cause a hidden tracer third-generation sterility that doesn't even show up in rats, of course, over a course of weeks, but in humans over the course of generations, 40 years maybe, till we see this kind of thing really fall out in a serious way.
Exactly. So I might be eating Doritos now that have them, and it's not going to affect me, and it's not going to affect my kids. But my kids, well, suddenly they won't be able to have children, or they'll have total organ failure and die at maybe 10, 20 years old, whatever.
But this has been a big fight about the sweet corn, because they've had other GMO corns that they mix into foods that are processed, right, or they feed to livestock. But this one is actually meant for you to roast and eat.
This is the corn on the cob, if you think of the actual corn on the cob, and It is ridiculous. Walmart Stores Incorporated says it has no objection to selling a new crop of genetically modified sweet corn created by the biotech giant Monsanto. After looking at both sides of the debate and collaborating with a number of respected food safety experts, there's no significantly validated reason to implement restrictions of this product, they said to the Tribune. Now, and this is Monsanto. What they say is the corn which is being harvested, you don't need as much insecticide. It says Monsanto's genetically modified sweet corn is resistant to a common herbicide, which is Roundup, which allows farmers to kill weeds without killing the corn. But what they don't tell you is that because it's resistant to Roundup, they spray more of it on the crop to kill more weeds even quicker. So you're getting more Roundup plus the genetically modified stuff on top of it. So it's a double whammy that they're feeding us right now. And I remember, we've had all kinds of studies on Roundup and what it does. It causes cancer. There's no doubt about it.
And it destroys your immune system, whether it's the type of GMO that produces its own pesticide or whether it's resistant to Roundup and the other pesticides they spray on it. You eat it. It goes into your gut where you've got all kinds of little micro absorbers, the little bacteria that do the good things in your body. That's being destroyed by the pesticide. And in some parts of the body, in some cases, it's replicating the pesticides, little pesticide factories inside your gut, destroying your ability to stave off other diseases. It's going to be a total epidemic.
And like we said before, it's been in processed food since the 90s, but this is where it's going to come out. Sitting there on the cob, you're going to be roasting it. You're going to have your GMO corn filled with Monsanto's genetically modified goodness and the Roundup all mixed together, growing inside the cob itself. And there's been a doubling of food allergies in this country since 1996, is what it also says in this. And the Consumer Reports people think it's connected to genetically modified foods. It's probably connected to a lot of things, but GMO is definitely on that list.
There's a cocktail mixture, but the GMOs are coming on so strong. The other part of that you have to understand is they've had 4, 5, 6 major GMO crops in the last decade. That alone has been a major fight over regulatory issues. Will they be really tested? Not really, because Monsanto puts its own vice presidents, its own lobbyists in at the FDA. They, for all intents and purposes, own the FDA, the USDA, and the other people who would normally regulate GMOs. And there's a whole international battle. You notice many European countries don't want to accept GMO. But now, under the Trans-Pacific Partnership, if you want to export products to Asia, which obviously Europe does, so do we in the United States, you're going to have to accept low-level presence GMOs, and they're going from less than 10 major GMO crops to more than 120 crops, more than 120 crops that they want to approve in just the next couple decades, and they're completely destroying all regulatory processes. They've got riders in Congress and bills that are probably going to be passed that basically mandate that all GMOs will be fast-tracked approved with no real inspections, no testing for long-term problems. This is a takeover. They don't want labeling. They don't want you to know what you're eating.
And there's going to be no liability, so you can't sue them even after these tests that have been suppressed. They'll finally see the light of day. People are going to start suing. People are going to say, this is why I have, celiac disease or my gut's totally torn up is because I'm eating this junk. And, it just goes on. And we don't know when these things spread out in the fields and they cross-pollinate, we don't know what's going to happen to regular corn. We don't know what's going to happen to regular soybeans or sugar beets. You know, those are the main crops for GMOs, and those are out there. And we know they cross-pollinate because we've already seen Monsanto go out and sue farmers when their crop cross-pollinates with another crop. They sue them for patent theft.
It's an ingenious takeover. Who benefits from the cross-pollination, even if it's an accident? Well, it destroys competition. It destroys nature's competition. The naturally existing, good for you, things that have learned over thousands and millions of years to interact with our bodies, provide nutrition. No, they know better, and through intellectual property rights, they want to take it over and have a monopoly over the food you eat, over your actual ability to live and reproduce. We'll be back on the other side, Infowars.com. Lots more news. We're going to cover the energy spectrum and how that, too, is a takeover inside the United States. But I want to point out what a great breakdown it was about the privatization of water, how they don't want you to even be allowed to collect your own rainwater. Tie that in with how they've been going after gardeners, lemonade stands, and you name it.